Hello, my name is Huey Long, and welcome back. I know it's been a big break since I last uploaded a video, but here I am. I'm going to be playing Supreme Ruler Ultimate, or at least just giving it a little test run. Unfortunately, I can't continue playing Power and Revolution because the developers, quite frankly, have not put enough effort into their game and has met an error code when launching, which apparently, after looking it up briefly, it seems like a lot of people have issues with it and there doesn't seem to be a fix. Despite that, the developers have managed to find the time to create another overpriced DLC because of the COVID pandemic. So, what did I say about French developers? Anyway, I will be doing a single player sandbox campaign. We're going to be starting in 2017, and I'm going to be taking the Democratic Republic of the Congo and turning it around. So we're going to keep world volatility to low, victory conditions complete, settings the same. Seems fine to me. And this is all okay to me. All right. So we're gonna start. So I have a secret kind of objective for myself is as the Congo, I want to do my own little event called the Revenge Against Leopold. So I'm going to try and get a nuclear device to explode in Brussels. For any possible Belgian fans, I'm sorry, but I mean, you kind of know it, it was going to come. You can't just commit a Holocaust in the Congo and expect no repercussions. We're coming for you. But anyway, as the Congo, we're not exactly in the best starting position. If we look here at our ledger and statistics, we look that we have $1 billion in our treasury, which is for an African state is okay. It doesn't really put us with a lot of good neighbors. I guess New Zealand is another developed country, but if you couldn't tell, we have a very low GDP per capita, but we have quite a large population. In fact, I think yes, we are up there. We actually beat Thailand, France, and the UK, so other developed economies. Um, we would be we're just outside. I mean, population-wise, we're considered part of these second world or developing countries. Obviously, not counting Germany or either the United States. But quite frankly, if you look at our economy, unless you look at Ethiopia, it's not doing very well. So what we're going to focus on is developing our own native industries and expanding natural resource collection. We have Joseph Kabila, who's in power, who is, if I remember correctly, is the son of I don't remember his father's full name. Obviously, it ends with Kabila, I think. He was a former rebel who fought against Mobutu, who turned the Congo basically into his own little purse. He was I guess, a native version of King Leopold. So yeah, not the greatest guy, but let's see if we could turn him into a better figure for the Congo. We have a pretty average credit rating, below average credit rating, negative inflation, interesting, moderately high unemployment, and relatively low tourism. You can see we have $58 billion in debt, not that great. Domestic wise, we have a pretty healthy birth. It looks like 3-to-1 births to deaths ratio, but a relatively high immigration number. And our population is only 65% literate. In terms of international kind of our standing, the world is apparently quite indifferent to us, and we have relatively low subsidy rates. Our finances, not that great. We have a pretty low domestic approval rating, really low social rating, 47.4% overall tax rate, and we have only $79 million. I don't even know if that would last us like a full month for considering like import and export expenses. Our resources. Agriculture is technically in the surplus, so we don't import anything. Our rubber is non-existent. Timber is, I'm doing pretty well. I'd hope so with this massive forest over here in Central Africa. We have no oil production, but the game is quite generous in giving us quite a bit of oil. Um, Coal, same case, huge stock, but no actual production. And we have a moderate amount of metal production, a non-existent uranium production, an okay surplus of electricity, and we have no production of consumer, industrial, or military goods. So within the history of the Congo, as many of you would know, we were mostly used as a natural resource cash cow for Belgium. And if any of you actually know, this is a minor fact, though an interesting fact nevertheless. The Congo, toward the end of its colonial rule under the Belgians and into the early years of its independence under Mobutu, became a weird testing ground for science experiments from under the Belgian authorities and actually eventually from West German scientists. Um, there was a documentary put out by the state television of Germany, DW, Deutsche Welles, and they explored the story of some West German scientists who were interested in a post-war rocket program for nonviolent purposes. If any of you know or have heard about the V2 rocket program during the Second World War developed on the Germans, which helped actually the Americans develop their NASA program, and also I'm pretty sure the Soviets um, had a couple of German scientists taken. I mean, well, they took some German scientists after the Second World War. But regardless, anyway, there were a couple of scientists in West Germany who, despite the military restrictions, wanted to test civilian use of rockets, and they actually were trying to do a low cost and relatively low material usage for sending basically resources or small satellites into orbit. Um, they were I don't want to say they were the Elon Musks or the Teslas of their age, because that's two different kind of objectives. They were simply trying to, I guess, democratize the supply chain of the space race. And if I were to guess, they probably were wanting to see Germany become like a middling power regarding the space race rather than just leave it between NASA and the Soviet space program. Anyway, just an interesting side fact. But maybe that fact may be useful when we try and detonate our nuclear device in Belgium, regardless. So, a research situation is not the best, but we're certainly not starving. Our research, on the other hand, we only have two research facilities, and quite frankly, we'll probably focus on medical research and societal research to lower costs for, say, basic medical services and saves us money in the long run. Defense, quite frankly, that's not going to be a priority. We're not at war, and I'm kind of hesitant on making any military objectives. Quite frankly, I want to exert control from Kinshasa toward the south and kind of the western edge of our country, re-exert supply chains, build new supply chains, and kind of help centralize the state. Um, we especially want to focus on this lowland here, this lowland area over here, which has, if I remember, quite a bit of metal, uranium, and our coal reserves, which is quite important for early industrialization. Anyway, so let's look at our finances. The way I'm going to handle finances is extreme protectionism and high tax rate, so as to bring it, like, try to increase our cash flow, oh, whoops, to the best kind of like possible rate so we could begin early industrialization. We're going to keep an overall tax rate of 65%. Specifically, we're going to raise high income to the highest, corporate to the highest, unemployment, property, and pension extremely high. Social spending uh, might be counterintuitive, but I'm going to keep it just a little bit below the recommended level. So this is 60, I'll keep it to 50 million. And we'll do 35. In fact, actually, I'm gonna renege on what I just said. I'm gonna keep it to the recommended level because in a prior game years ago, I was just playing for leisure. I was playing as China, and I decided to cut all my kind of social spending so I could focus on having the highest possible cash flow and using that cash to build up industry, infrastructure, and develop the Chinese economy as quickly as I can. Because I was starting from a 1940 start date. I basically wanted to do what Deng Xiaoping did well before Mao or the Great Purge or the Cultural Revolution or any of those other disasters happened. Unfortunately, I created my own great, after effects of the Great Leap Forward because by not spending anything in my social services, my population plummeted. And eventually I had a lower population than India, which I was never able to recover. So we're going to avoid that mistake here. For our resources, we're going to have our minister focusing on export opportunities and subsidizing our agriculture. For research, we're going to put the highest amount in. We're going to lock him from choosing any research. And like I said, let's actually focus on medical and societal. Having this queue, I'm sure our scientists will be kept busy. And then we're going to completely defund. Oh, we're going to completely defund the military. We're going to save every dollar for economic development. I'm sure the military will thank us later when we actually have the cash to support, hopefully, one of the most technologically advanced armies on the quite frankly, on the continent. I think with the amount of resources that we could pull in, we could easily beat states like Egypt, Ethiopia, and maybe even South Africa. So, research, I think this is all set. So one of our first opening moves is not to focus on paying down our debt, but increasing production of basic resources. So we're going to build a we're going to start and build a gas field out here in the western edge of our state. And let's put that up to fast. Let's see what happens to this. All right, instantly get $1 billion. I'm going to disagree. We're not going to focus on building kind of, what's this? Oh, I forgot. We're also going to focus, obviously, on isolation. We don't want any trade deals. We don't want to interact with any of the states. We just want to focus on pure export, no special deals for anybody, and just increasing or maximizing our cash flow. So if we look at our income and expenses, let's see what our trade is like. Okay, it's pretty decent. Wait, we're producing industrial goods? Oh, the game has given us quite a bit of a stock. Interesting. Okay, regardless, I'm actually going to build a consumer goods. I'm going to build a minor facility uh, with the hopes because, sorry, let me slow down. I want to build a facility because if you look at this, these two numbers over here, this shows production cost and actual market price. That's just for one unit of a consumer good. That's quite a bit. Industry, not so much. These profit margins are kind of like, in terms of percentage of the actual production, it's quite considerable, but it doesn't, this is quite a lot, especially for a small developing African country that puts cash in our hands and also starts the early kind of phase of introducing like made in the Congo goods. We're basically gonna follow the Chinese model of industrial development with a lot less bloodshed, hopefully. Um, so let's see. We have about 60 more days on our consumer goods factory and 40 something days on our oil. And we'll see how that affects both our petroleum and consumer goods. I'm also going to build a bit of a cold mine. Now, for the environmentalists out there, you're definitely not going to like what I'm about to say. We're going to use our coal for heavy industry. So it's going to be entirely for domestic production, aka electrical production, because factories require a lot of energy. And so we want to reduce the amount of electrical kind of imports that we have to rely on, because that's once again cash not in our hand. So it seems like around the city of Likasi and Kolwezi, this coal field has the better supply, thus we get more resources from it. Uh, Oddly enough, outside of the road, it's better. All right, I'm going to focus here. This might be a little bit loud, in which case I will fix the effects after this video, but let's see. I think we're doing pretty okay. I think I'm going to end the video when we see some of the financial kind of profits, profits of the consumer goods factory in Kinshasa. Already looking forward to that. Oh, one thing we can use our military for is if we get the technology, we could start producing engineering units. So basically military engineers, and we could use them to speed up production of on-map facilities, which is pretty great. Basically, if you're from the US, imagine if the National Guard or the military Army Corps of Engineer was used to develop infrastructure in which private businesses were, heavily reliant on. I'm sure maybe a couple of people would disagree with that use. In my opinion, the state use of resources, like using those tried and tested institutions, like say the Army Corps of Engineer to develop domestic infrastructure is probably a good investment for the long term. Because especially private industry is not willing to spend that money on their own. They'd rather put that back in R&D or, even putting it back in something as simple as like investments, regardless. For us as the Congo, we're following a highly protectionist economic model with a heavy emphasis on literal development of roads and rails. Like for instance, if we look at our capital, Kinshasa, we don't have any railroads. Our main connections are just simple roads that go like to the western edge near Muanda, and then it goes all the way down to Kanaga, around 739,000 and 1.2 million. These people. So you can see most of our kind of like development kind of stretches down here, but then you have all these population centers up here like Goma and Rutushu. Like these are pretty decent population sizes. They're just too distant from the capital in terms of like space. And we want to reduce that space with efficient roads. Like over here, I think, yeah, 703,000. And look at how long it would take just to like drive. And it's like the least direct route. So we want to develop like railways from Kinshasa heading along the coast, the river coast. I don't know what this river is called. I think it's actually just the Congolese River. I could be mistaken. I will check that before the release of the second video. Okay, 16 days out, our factory is almost done. In 7 days, our oil factory will be, our first oil field will be done. And if you look at the profit margin there, what is that? $42? 42 bucks. I think it just went down 41 bucks per like I think that's barrel of oil is how they calculate that. Let's see. We could actually check here. Units. I actually can't see because we don't export oil. But anyway, so most of the, if you do the units for the trades, it shows you how it's measured. Metric cubic meters, um, tons, megawatts per hour. Oh, there we go. I think that's, I don't want to say BBL. Let me double check what that is right now, actually. I want to say that's bill, it's not billions of barrels. Sounds too simple, and that's clearly not correct. I'm actually embarrassed because I should know a little bit about oil since I did a project on it a while back. Well, a long time ago. Oh, yeah, it is just a barrel, I guess. Really? Hmm, that doesn't seem. Yeah, apparently the abbreviation BBL stands for barrel of oil. One barrel was 42 gallons. Interesting. So we, so it looks like the game has us like export like collective sums of barrels of oil. Oh wow, we have a lot. It's $56 billion. I think that's enough to pay off the entire debt, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Um, contrary, it's really tempting to do it, but I'm actually gonna keep those bonds because I think if you pay off the bonds too quickly, your credit rating actually goes down. This sounds counterintuitive, but in reality, this works the same way. If you as an individual hold a lot of debt, like say you graduate from university and you pay off an entire loan without doing the monthly payments, your credit score will actually go down. It will recover, but it'll actually immediately, in the short term, it'll go down. The reason being that, quite frankly, credit scores, financial institutions don't like losing out on years of accumulated interest. So, you know what? Screw it. Let's repurchase all these bonds. Because also we could lower the tax rate a little bit and help our GDP per capita recover. Okay, we just eliminated all of the national debt and we still have $45 billion. Yep, so we became one of the few countries that, well, actually apparently according to the game, not one of the few countries uh, to completely eliminate its national debt. And I think we have one of the largest, yeah, we certainly, out of all the countries that paid off their debt, oh, we have one of the largest. Syria's declared war on Israel. We will acknowledge. We're not really interested in external affairs outside of Africa. Uh, doesn't look like Syria was really ready for an invasion of another country immediately after defeating ISIS. What a joke. I don't understand the AI's maneuver on that one. Maybe it overestimated its ability because it had to deploy a lot of troops to take over territory, but whatever. Anyway, okay, so the gas field is done. How much gas are we pulling in? Oh, we're actually just a little bit under what we use. And then oh, it doesn't actually show the unit for the building, but it's there. If you can't see, it says the goods consumer is done. We actually apparently have a micro goods consumer, a factory. You could actually build factories of varying sizes. So you have micro, mid, and an actual, I guess, standard industrial sector. Uh, yeah, that was a considerable jump, but I also, yep. So this is what I know. You can see industry is very expensive when it comes to um, electrical consumption. Let's check in on our coal field here in the south, about 10 days. And let's look at our finances. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure the consumer goods import was about negative 100 million, so we cut that down to 11 million. And it looks like that is our highest expense. Petroleum sales from the stock that the game gave us is definitely keeping us afloat. But if we could actually pick up in petroleum production, that would help conserve that stock. So we're gonna actually focus on building another gas field. What happened here? Oh, look at that. Looks like Israel is going to establish the greater Israeli state. Oof. Wouldn't be much to just gobble up Lebanon at this point. I've played a couple of games with Syria, and one of my first opening moves is actually to take over Lebanon, completely annex it, and primarily use its timber resources. Because Assyria, you have timber over here, but extra territory doesn't hurt. Da-da-da. Speaking of annexation, if the question of territorial expansion comes up, I think we'll want to focus on probably either. I think we'll probably set up a satellite state in Uganda and then annexing Rwanda and Burundi. The reason I say setting up a puppet state in Uganda is I do not want to devote resources and supply chains and military vehicles to suppressing insurrection and disloyalty in this sizable state. If we are going to do that, I'd probably focus instead on reuniting with this, um, with the Republic of the Congo, right over the river, rather than over here to the east with Uganda. Okay, that's just a notification. Oh, I think I just clicked away from a tweet from the President of the US. It's still 2017, so Donald Trump is in power. Uh, Spaniards have researched high-speed railways, high-speed trains. Huh, same in Iran. Let's see, how is our research going actually? Okay, oh, commercial video gaming? That is not the priority I wanted. I guess I should be a little bit more careful when doing the queue for research. So how's our population? I think we went up by 1 million already. I mean, I think we were relatively close, but let's see. Yeah, well, looks like we want to beat Iran and Thailand. So let's see how that goes. It's really tempting to build another consumer goods factory because look at that, $9,000 in profit, 2,000 with just industry. Oh, and we have finished our 2 research projects. Excellent. Anyway, so that's where we're gonna end. That's where I'm gonna end the video today. Let's actually just pause it. June 11th, 2017. Those were kind of our opening moves in the Congo. I hope you guys enjoyed this, whoever's still around after not posting a video for so long. Uh, Catch you soon, and thank you for watching.